Muppet Babies live in a nursery, in a house, on a street that is a lot like yours. But they can travel anywhere, anytime, using a special power, the power of the imagination. Can you imagine what it would be like to go with them? Join the Muppet Babies on this adventure and find out.
Oh, Uncle Kermit, do I have to go to sleep? It's still light out.
Oh, come on, Robin. It might be light outside, but it's past your bedtime because you've got a school day tomorrow.
But, Uncle Kermit, there's so much to do. There's games to play and pictures to draw and books to read. Oh, I don't have time to go to sleep. Sleeping is boring.
Come on, Robin. Go to sleep.
Uncle Kermit, could you at least read me a bedtime story?
Well, okay. But just one. You know, there's a book around here that's all about Gonzo being bored one day and what happened to him. I think you might like it. Here it is right here.
Well, what's it called?
Well, it's called Baby Gonzo's Treasure Hunt, and it was written by Joanne Louise Michaels, and the pictures were drawn by Tom Cook. One rainy morning, the Muppet Babies were eating breakfast. Gee, Gonzo said glumly, it's raining so hard that Nanny will never be able to take us to the amusement park today. There's nothing to do in the nursery, and I'm bored. I'm sure you can find something to do if you use your imagination, Kermit suggested. For instance, just look what's on the back of this box of Golden Treasure cereal. It's a real pirate's map. That isn't a real map, Gonzo mumbled, eating another spoonful of cereal. It's only a game on a cereal box. Kermit shook his head. Take a closer look. Gonzo picked up the box and peered at the map. As he studied the map, Gonzo felt the floor moving beneath his feet. When he looked up, he was no longer in the nursery. He was on the deck of a huge pirate ship anchored off a tropical island. The ship was the Jolly Gonzo. Around him stood his pirate crew. They were all pointing at the map in Captain Gonzo's hands.
This map means silver, gold, jewels, real treasure, bellowed the first mate, Mr. Kriegel. Aye, aye, agreed the other pirates.
Gonzo shook his head. No, it doesn't. It's just a cereal box map, and I'm bored. But the pirates wouldn't listen.
This is no time to be bored, shouted Mr. Kriegel. We found a treasure map. It's a pirate's duty to hunt for buried treasure.
Well, if you say so, Gonzo shrugged his shoulders. The pirates all climbed into their longboat and rowed to shore.
It says here, said Mr. Kriegel, looking at the map, that we first have to cross the oozy-fanoozy swamp to get to the treasure.
Oh, looks pretty tame to me, Gonzo yawned. Before they all safely reached the other side of the swamp, Gold Tooth Dan got stuck in quicksand, Pee-wee was nearly carried off by a giant pink flamingo, and a crocodile tried to take a bite out of Pegleg's peg leg.
I haven't had a crossing like that since the time a shark snatched Blackbeard's hat, roared Mr. Kriegel. We chased that fish halfway across the Pacific Ocean to get it back.
Gonzo nodded his head. He couldn't say a word. He was still out of breath from his race with the crocodile.
Now the treasure map says we've got to climb to the top of Mount Everest,
Mr. Kriegel declared. Some mountains can be boring, said Gonzo, but he had a strong hunch this one wouldn't be. During the climb, 3 of the pirates almost fell off a cliff. Cutlass Kirk had a shouting match with a big brown bear, and Cross-Eyed Jack began an avalanche when he stubbed his toe on a boulder.
I haven't made a climb like this since we escaped over the Andes Mountains, chased by a band of wild mountain goats, Mr. Kriegel told Gonzo. Those goats were fierce.
Wow, said Gonzo, dusting himself off. That was some climb.
Oh, what's going to happen next, Uncle Kermit? Huh? What's going to happen next?
Well, Robin, your guess is as good as mine. I will read on. Next, the map led them to the wide and dangerous Slamazon River. Captain Gonzo and the pirates built a sturdy raft and set off across the water. But the churning rapids caught them and whirled them downstream. The next thing they knew, they were going over a 50-foot waterfall. 4 of the pirates were swept overboard.
At least they're all good swimmers,
Mr. Kriegel observed as he helped the last of the pirates back onto the raft. Shiver me timbers, Gonzo yelled. This is really exciting. Finally, the pirates got to a sandy beach.
Here, Mr. Kriegel shouted. We're supposed to dig for the treasure at the X.
all the pirates started to dig, with Captain Gonzo working the hardest. Buried treasure, he thought as he dug. This is turning out to be one of the most amazing days ever. Plunk! I think I've hit something, Captain Gonzo yelled. Dig faster! Before you could say yo-ho-ho, the pirates had dug up an old treasure chest.
I wonder what's inside, whispered Mr. Kriegel. Gold? Doubloons? Jewels? It could be the richest treasure in the world. I haven't seen a decent treasure since we dug up Blackbeard's mother's best silverware. Open it! Cried the pirates.
Captain Gonzo took a deep breath and lifted the top of the chest. All the pirates peered inside.
Ah!
Sighed Mr. Kriegel.
It is the richest treasure in the world, next to Blackbeard's mother's best silverware.
Gonzo stared into the chest. What are you talking about? He asked in amazement. The only thing in here is golden treasure cereal.
That's right, cheered Mr. Kriegel. We're hungry. We just hiked through a swamp and were chased by a crocodile and climbed a mountain and almost got eaten by a big brown bear. We rode a raft over a raging waterfall and dug up a pirate treasure, and we never stopped for breakfast.
Meanwhile, the other pirates were already taking out their spoons and bowls. Gonzo watched as the pirates began to eat. He soon realized that he too was feeling very hungry. After all, he thought, I never finished my breakfast. Do you have an extra bowl? He asked Mr. Kriegel. Back in the nursery, Gonzo was finishing his cereal. Zowie, Kermit, he said. You were right. I just had the greatest pirate adventure ever. I hiked through a swamp and was chased by a crocodile and climbed a mountain and almost got eaten by a big brown bear. And then I rode a raft over a raging waterfall and dug up a pirate treasure. Not bad for a rainy morning, Kermit agreed. And you thought you were going to be bored. Bored? Gonzo swallowed his last spoonful. No way. Now that I've finished breakfast, I'm ready for another adventure. Would anyone like to join me?
Oh, I would. Hey, let's go look for buried treasure, Uncle Kermit.
Well, you know, something tells me that this wasn't a book to read to you at bedtime, Robin. Aren't you the least bit sleepy?
Well, not really. Why don't you read me another one? Maybe then I'll get sleepier.
Okay, but just one, all right? Now, let's see. What do we have here?
I don't know. What?
Well, let's see. This book is called Baby Piggy's Night at the Ball. It's all about something that Piggy learned about friendship when she was little. And it was written by Louise Gickau, and the pictures are by Lauren Attanello. Here we go. Baby Piggy was planning a wonderful costume ball. It was time to invite the guests. Kermie, would you like to come to the ball? Baby Piggy asked, smiling sweetly. All the dolls will be there, and we will have a wonderful time. There will be music and dancing, and there will be lemonade and the cupcakes with chocolate and vanilla frosting that Nanny just made. Then there will be prizes for the best costumes. I know we could win. Gee, Piggy, answered Kermit, I promised to play pirates with Fozzie. Maybe another time. I'm not doing anything, Gonzo piped up. May I come? No way, Bluebeak, Piggy sniffed. You'd only get your nose into everything and make a mess. I'm afraid you're not wanted at the ball. Piggy took all her dolls down from the shelf. There were baby dolls and tin soldiers. There were dolls that talked and dolls that walked. There were Piggy's two favorites, Esmeralda and Giselle. And then there was Oliver, a funny, floppy, stuffed clown. Piggy imagined that it was time to get ready for the ball. We don't want to be late, she told Esmeralda and Giselle, so let's put on our costumes. Oh, yes, said Esmeralda. I'm going as a cowgirl. I'm even bringing my pony, Old Paint. I'm going as a beautiful ballerina, added Giselle. I'll dance and twirl all night long. I'm going to be a fairy princess, announced Piggy. What are you going to wear, Oliver?
I'm already dressed for the ball, Oliver laughed, standing on his head. I'm going as a clown. After all, that's what I always am.
He shouldn't be allowed to come, said Esmeralda, turning up her nose. No, Giselle agreed. He's just a silly clown. Piggy disagreed. All the other dolls are coming, she said. I think he should too. Oliver escorted Piggy, Esmeralda, and Giselle to the dolls' ball. When they got there, Piggy's eyes opened wide. Everything was so beautiful. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, and there were flowers everywhere. All the dolls were in costume, and the tin soldiers and loveliest dolls were dancing a waltz. Two of the most dashing soldiers asked Esmeralda and Giselle to dance. Piggy watched as they whirled around the floor. Suddenly, Piggy saw all the dolls looking up and pointing. She looked up too. There was Oliver, swinging on the crystal chandelier. "I'm Oliver, the amazing acrobat," he shouted, swinging back and forth and back again. Then he let go and dropped right into a crowd of tin soldiers, knocking them all down. "Isn't this fun?" Oliver laughed. "Oliver," Piggy said, shaking her head, "it's not fun. You've made a terrible mess." Oliver looked at the pile of soldiers on the floor. Then he looked at Piggy. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to."
Well, that Oliver's some clown, huh, Uncle Kermit?
Yeah, I don't think Piggy appreciated his sense of humor very much, though.
Yeah. I guess I can see why. He made a mess.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
Well, let's see. Supper was served at 8 o'clock. There were little peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, 5 kinds of cake, and 2 huge silver bowls, one filled with chocolate ice cream and one filled with vanilla. Piggy had piled her plate high and was nibbling some cake when she saw a crowd gathering around the table. She stood up to get a better look. What she saw made her gasp. Oliver was trying to balance the bowl of chocolate ice cream on his nose. "I'm the greatest juggler in the world!" Oliver shouted. "Hand me the bowl of vanilla!" As Piggy watched, the bowl on Oliver's nose began to wobble this way and that. Then, with a huge crash, it fell, splashing chocolate ice cream all over the place. "Oh, no!" cried Esmeralda. "He's gotten ice cream all over my costume." "And mine," Giselle echoed. "Oh, Oliver, look at the mess you've made." Piggy gazed down at the spilled ice cream. Oliver hung his head. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to." Piggy cleaned up as best she could. She was just sitting down for a rest when she heard a voice. "Excuse me," it said. "May I have this dance?" Piggy looked around. Standing there was the most handsome frog she had ever seen. He was dressed as a noble prince. "Of course," Piggy smiled. "I'd love to dance." Piggy and the handsome frog were doing the frog trot when she noticed Oliver. He was practicing his somersaults, and he was headed straight for the orchestra. "Look at my terrific tumbling!" Oliver shouted, doing his best backflip. "Watch out!" Piggy cried, but it was too late. Oliver had rolled right into the violin section. Strings twanged, music stands fell every which way, and the instruments crashed to the floor. "He's spoiling the whole ball," Giselle said, stamping her foot. "You're right," Piggy agreed. She turned angrily to Oliver. "Why don't you go home?" Piggy demanded. "You don't belong at my ball. You've made a mess of everything." Oliver just stood there. Slowly a tear trickled down his cheek. One tear became many more. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," he whispered. Piggy saw Oliver crying. Suddenly the mess he made didn't seem very important. "Don't worry," she said gently. "It doesn't matter. We'll clean everything up. You're my friend, and that's the only thing that counts." Piggy put her arms around Oliver and hugged him tight. When baby Piggy looked up, she was back in the nursery. There was Gonzo standing by himself. Piggy remembered what she had said to him when he asked to come to the ball. "Gonzo," said Piggy, "the costume ball is still going on, and I was wondering if you'd like to come after all." "Wow, yes," Gonzo grinned. "Thanks, I can wear my new space helmet." He brushed off his shoes and gave his helmet a quick polish. Piggy and Gonzo were having some more refreshments at the ball when it came time to award prizes for the best costumes. "The winners for the best costumes are," announced the handsome frog prince. "Oh, I hope I win," Piggy wished. "The fairy princess and the weird spaceman with her," finished the frog. We won, shouted Gonzo, jumping up and down with excitement. Piggy and Gonzo were crowned king and queen of the costume ball. Oliver, the clown, clapped harder than anyone. Then Gonzo led Piggy out to the middle of the floor for a dance. Gonzo was trying out his super-duper loop-de-looper twirl when he landed on Piggy's toes. "I'm sorry," he said, blushing. "I didn't mean to." "That's all right, Gonzo," said Piggy. "It doesn't matter." Piggy glanced over at Oliver. He was sitting quietly in a chair, but Piggy was sure she saw him smile and wink.
Gee, I'm glad Piggy invited Gonzo to the ball after all.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Uncle Kermit, want to dance?
Robin, it's time for you to go to sleep.
Aw, Uncle Kermit, sleeping's just a waste of time.
You know, Robin, I used to think that same sort of thing, but I changed my mind, and there's a book somewhere around here that's all about why I did. Wait a second.
Oh, gonna read it to me?
Yeah, it's called Goodnight, Sir Kermit, and it's written by Michaela Montine, and the pictures are by Sue Venning. But this is the last book I read to you, and afterward you got to promise to go to sleep.
Okay, Uncle Kermit, I promise.
Okay, here we go. It was a summer evening, the kind when bedtime arrives before it is dark. "I don't like having to go to bed while it's still light outside," Kermit sighed. "We could be playing in the park." "Try playing with your toes," Gonzo suggested. "That always makes me sleepy." "Sleep is a waste of time," Kermit decided. "When I grow up, I'm going to stay up as late as I want and do all kinds of exciting things. I may never go to sleep." Then he reached out and took a big storybook from the nursery bookshelf. The storybook was filled with pictures of knights in shining armor and fire-breathing dragons and huge castles surrounded by moats. "I bet the babies who lived back then had exciting lives," said Kermit. "They probably stayed up all night fighting dragons and having fun." Kermit studied a picture of a gray stone castle. It must have been great to live in a place like this, he thought. You would never run out of rooms to explore. I wonder what's behind the castle. I wish I could see. Suddenly, Kermit was no longer looking at a picture. He was peeking around the corner of a real castle. A castle just like the one in his storybook. Now he could see that behind the castle was a beautiful garden. In the middle of the garden was a pond filled with lily pads, and on one of the lily pads, a frog, who was just about his own size, lay sleeping. That frog looks familiar, Kermit thought, and he jumped into the pond to have a better look. As Kermit neared the lily pad, the sleeping frog woke with a start. "Who goes there?" he cried. Then he saw Kermit and shrugged his shoulders. "Never mind," he mumbled sleepily. "I thought you were the dragon." "You must have been dreaming," Kermit laughed. "Dragons aren't real. They're only in storybooks." "Of course they're real," the other frog answered. "They're just as real as I am, and I am Sir Dancelot, Knight of the Pond Table." "My name is Kermit," said Kermit, "but I'm not a knight. I'm just plain old Kermit." "You're lucky," Sir Dancelot sighed, "because if you were me, you would have to fight the dragon today." "Are you afraid?" Kermit asked. "No, I'm exhausted," Dancelot moaned. "I stayed up all night dancing. Dancing is my favorite thing to do. But if I had been a good knight, I would have gotten a good night's sleep. Now I'm really in trouble." Sir Dancelot then told Kermit his sad tale. A fire-breathing dragon had charged into the nearby town, demanding to marry the lovely Princess Pigdolin. Dancelot was in love with Pigdolin and had challenged the dragon to a duel. Whoever would fight the longest would win the beautiful princess. Whoever got tired and stopped would lose. "But I've had so little sleep," wailed Dancelot. "I can barely stand up, let alone fight." Kermit felt terribly sorry for the exhausted knight and wanted to help. "What if I fight the dragon for you?" he suggested. "I'm wide awake." "Oh, thank you," said the grateful knight, shaking Kermit's hand. "My armor and horse are behind that big rock. Be sure to wake me up when it's over. And good luck." Kermit was so excited he could hardly put on the armor. He clinked and clanked around a bit, but he finally got it right and climbed on the horse. Then he headed toward town. Kermit arrived to find a large crowd gathered to watch the duel. He rode closer until he had a good view of the dragon's huge golden eyes and glistening golden green scales. The dragon looked strong, as though he could fight for a long, long time. "Dancelot, my hero!" Princess Pigdolin was calling. "You must save me from this monster. He has been running around breathing fire and smoke all night, waiting for you." "So, the dragon has been up all night too, has he?" murmured Kermit as he took his position in front of the huge monster. "That gives me an idea." When the duel began, Kermit tried to remember every lullaby he had ever heard. He sang them to the dragon one by one. He sang Rock-a-bye Dragon, he sang Go to Sleep, Little Dragon, and Dream, Sweet Dragon, Dreams. Slowly, the dragon's eyes began to close. He sank to his knees, then stretched out on the ground. Soon, he was sound asleep.
Oh, gee, that was smart, Uncle Kermit. You put the dragon to sleep.
Yes, if I could only do the same for you, Robin.
Keep reading, Uncle Kermit. Keep reading.
Of course. Hip hooray! Long live Sir Dancelot! Cheered the crowd. They cheered softly so as not to wake the dragon. My hero, sighed Princess Pigdolin. You have conquered the dragon, and now we can be married. She leaned over to give Kermit a kiss. Oh no, thought Kermit. This is going too far. Fighting dragons is one thing, but marrying a princess is another. I'd better get the real Sir Dancelot. Excuse me, your royal pigginess, Kermit said with a bow. I fear I have forgotten something very important. I will return shortly. Kermit rode to the garden as quickly as he could. The real Frog Knight was waking up just as he arrived. Hurry, said Kermit as he took off the armor and handed it to Dancelot. Put yourself into this tin suit. We've got to get you back so you can marry the princess. As they galloped along, Kermit told Dancelot everything that had happened. And if I were really you, Kermit said at the end of the story, I would find something useful for that dragon to do when he wakes up. The preparations for the wedding feast were well underway when the dragon finally awakened. He was very disappointed to find out that he had lost both the duel and the princess. Sigh, 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 breathed the dragon, and every time he sighed, a flame flickered out of his mouth. Look, exclaimed Princess Pigdolin in amazement. He's roasting all the marshmallows with his fiery breath. Kermit and Dancelot stared at the dragon, and then at each other. They both had the same idea. How would you like a job as royal chef? Sir Dancelot asked the dragon. The dragon was delighted because he loved to cook. His first job, of course, was to finish the wedding feast. He stewed tomatoes for tomato soup, he grilled the grilled cheese sandwiches, and he melted chocolate for hot fudge sundaes a la dragon. Kermit had a wonderful time at the wedding, but after his busy day, he was finally beginning to feel sleepy. Dancelot thanked Kermit for everything he had done. Then he asked him to kneel. Drawing his sword, Dancelot said, For your bravery and untiring devotion, I now dub thee Sir Kermit, Knight of the Pond Table. Kermit looked up, but he did not see Sir Dancelot. Instead, he saw Nanny, who was tucking him into his own little crib. Good night, Kermit, she said. Yes, Nanny, Kermit murmured sleepily. I guess I am a good knight. And like all good knights, I'm ready for a good night's sleep. So, you see, Robin, if you danced all night, you couldn't fight dragons and win princesses. Robin? Good night, Sir Robin. Sleep tight.